Shalom Aleichem, brothers and sisters. This is Minister Uriah Baraka coming to you again with another lesson from the Word of Elohim concerning the power of compassion. We want to understand how our compassion plays a part in our ministry to others, and how that compassion has the potential of producing power by which healing and the resurrection of the spirit and of the mind can be effected through our ministry. We want to go to Matthew 14:14, and we want to look at this very carefully. Um, I don't believe in just reading over scriptures, but to analyze and deduce and to pray and to seek enlightenment from the Spirit of Yahweh so that we can understand the rhythm of the word and how to appropriate this word for the benefit of redemption. But it says here, and Yeshua went out, he saw a great multitude, and he was moved with compassion for them and healed their sick. Now in the Hebrew, the book of Matthew, the word for compassion is written Chesid, 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 compassion. The word that is used, as I said, in the Besorah of Matthew is Chesid. The expression Raha Am Rab We Yit Elehul Chesid. When he saw the multitude of people, it caused to come upon him compassion. When he saw the people in a state of affliction, a state of constriction, repression, sickness, it says that compassion came upon him, Yeshua HaMashiach, and he healed them, Rapha. He healed them. Here we see a process. First he saw, or let's say he understood, that there was a condition of need that was before him. From the understanding of their need, there was birthed within him at that moment Chesid, compassion. Chesid, an unfailing love, loyal love, kindness, compassion that is based upon a covenant relationship. A love which was manifested, kindness or compassion. This compassion from love produced power to resolve the need. Therefore it stated, and he healed them. We can see a process here. This process we also see in the writings of Luke, when he birthed again Chesid, compassion, and from that compassion, power to resolve and raise the mother's child from a state of death. This is speaking of the story of when Yeshua went into the city of Nain and he seen the woman who was in grief over the death of her son. Yeshua saw her. He saw her grief, and he had compassion. And he went and he laid hands on the coffin, and the child arose. Okay? So he raised the mother's child from a state of death to life. Through what? A manifestation of compassion produced an action by which healing was able to be appropriated. This is important to understand. Why? Because by understanding this process, we who claim to have the Spirit, upon whom the Chesid, compassion, mercy, grace of Elohim has been poured out on, we must ask, why do I have no power to resolve the needs of the people? And why, with all this religion in me, why is there no birth of compassion? Rather, only the birth of condemnation, negation, and minimalization of one another. This is important to ask this question. If you see yourself in a habit of, instead of complimenting the gifts of Elohim within people, you always find a way to negate or to minimize. This does not come from an attitude that is enlightened by the Ruach HaKadosh, rather from the attitude of a that is engrafted in darkness. This must be perfectly understood. We must examine ourselves to see if we are functioning from the true faith and love of Elohim, because out of the heart the mouth speaks. The condition of the heart creates a effect within our behavior by which we are able to identify whether or not we are acting from the spirit or from qualities of darkness that still remain innately within us. And I will answer the question. It is because our religion or spirituality is, in many cases, just a robe that we wear over our enslavement. We live in a society that is based upon aesthetics, cosmetics. And in the church, when I participated in the Babylonian church, I understood this clearly, that it was all cosmetics. It was all a clothing of fig leaves that we place upon ourselves, a system of our own righteousness and a system of our own righteous standard. But that system was unable to correct the internal condition that produced dysfunctional behavior. But as most people in Babylon, I also became a master of aesthetics to hide those qualities and conditions through the mimicry of religious behavior that was acceptable to men. That I do not do anymore. You see, for me to read this or to see or to understand that divine compassion produces power to heal, and not only heal, but to raise the dead, as was exemplified in the life of Yeshua. I must then question or examine myself and the religion or spiritual principles I adhere to. That is, those that does not produce in me a compassion for the people, a compassion for the masses, for the great multitude that is in darkness, a compassion from which is an explosion of power, koach, ability to do, to resolve the sickness of the people and the spiritual death that is upon the people. When we are called and we receive that calling, we must understand the responsibility that comes from that calling. The first responsibility is to purify our hearts through the obedience of the truth so that compassion can be manifested within us. We were born in darkness. That means in an ontological state that was not the standard in which Elohim intends for man to live. This is where you get the word sin, kata, to fall beneath the standard. To fall beneath the standard, to function on a standard that does not equate to the divine standard that is set forth by Elohim. Thus, our first responsibility as Messianic Hebrews or as Hebrew Israelites or whatever title that you choose to call yourself. But when you turn to Yahweh, you turn for the purpose of purification, understanding that your own essence is kata, sin. It's below the standard that is required to manifest the divine quality and the divine character that the Spirit or the Scriptures speak of. Divine compassion produces power. Power to subject sin and lawlessness. Power over sickness and death. Compassion, Chesid, a love that is loyal to the people, a love that is loyal to the will of Elohim. The Torah teaches, if you see the donkey of him that hates you lying under his burden, and you would refrain from helping him, you shall surely help him. Shemut 23:6. So if Yahweh instructs us to have compassion upon those who hate us, how much more compassion? How much more compassion should we have on those who share in our historical bondage, our historical afflictions, our historical enslavement, who have been ravaged by the lies and deceit of a system that only seeks to exploit them in their poverty and demoralize them to spiritual death, as we see in our society today. It takes effort to have compassion on those who hate you. Thus it says, and you would refrain from helping him. That means you really don't want to help someone that hates you. But Yahweh says, okay, let's transcend now. We know what you don't want to do. Now transcend to what I want you to do. You shall surely help him. This is what this movement is about, is getting knowledge that we can appropriate unto a divine effect, not a positive effect, positive thinking, negative thinking, or you're being positive, you're being negative. No, we want a divine effect, an effect that produces the redemption of souls, the redemption of mind, the redemption of life, a restoration of man from a kata state, sin, to a state of rightness, zadik, righteousness, a state that is completely compatible to the life and quality of Elohim. But it shows us here that we must have compassion for the people. You can't act for anyone's good and don't have compassion for them. When you see that man who hates you with a burden on him, your first impulse is to turn away from him. But Yah says, transcend. You shall surely help him. Go to the next level. Don't submit yourself to a level that does not complement my quality, my standard. Thus Yeshua said, unless a man denies himself, he is not worthy to be my disciple. Because I know for a fact, truthfully, I don't want to help anyone who hates me. I want to smack him in the mouth. And thus, knowing this truthfully, I know that I come into a situation like that, then I have to impose self-denial upon myself and obey Torah. He might be a white man. He might be a black man. Because anyone who does not keep the will and the word of Elohim is your enemy. He is against the will of the Father. They are the ones that gossip and slander. But if you see them hungry and a burden of hunger upon them, Yahweh's requirement is that you help them. But the point being is, how much more if Yahweh in his wisdom commands us to help those or to assist those who have a burden, knowing that this person does not like you. How much more when you see your brother and your sister in need would he command of you? Fervently, he would command of you to assist your brother. But we see no assistance. We see no movement. We see no unity because there is no compassion. We have turned to religion without cleansing ourselves from the quality of selfishness, the quality of narcissistic living. And this is why we continue to have this recidivism of poverty in the community, because there is no resolve. There is no compassion. The church don't have compassion. The church is too busy raising offerings. So there must come a time when a people realize that the concern of Yahweh is the blind, the sick, the lame, the hungry, the defenseless. And there be a people who will rise up, put away their own selfish desires, and begin to minister the word of Elohim, the power of Elohim, the prosperity of Elohim to the people, for the people, to empower the people without seeking any profit from yourself. This is the word of Elohim. This is the example that Yeshua left us, to produce within our lives compassion for the multitude, compassion for those who do not particularly like us, compassion to transcend the state and the quality of the flesh and of the darkness of this world, and not to participate in it with the propagation of hate doctrines and race doctrines and all these other antagonistic doctrines that you see all on Facebook and everywhere else in the name of Yahweh. This is abominable. Yahweh is love, and he that loveth is born of Yahweh. Maybe you just don't understand what love is. Maybe you think that love means submission to the will of your oppressor. It does not. It means transcending the will of your oppressor and embodying the will of Yahweh, our liberator in Yeshua HaMashiach. I'll leave it right here, and I wish all of you a happy Sabbath, a fulfilled Sabbath, and may the love of Elohim rest upon you always in Yeshua or Yahusha HaMashiach.